Hi again, welcome to another speed draw. So this week it's, of course, Hunter Zero. I will warn you though, I'm pretty sure while we're watching all of this, I've made a huge mistake on a couple of things when I was drawing him. So a little embarrassing, but I've learnt my lesson, I hope. Otherwise though, we do have a handful of questions to get through, so hopefully I can get through all of them in the one video. So what I'll do, I'll see if I can start with any easy, quick ones that answer all the questions, and we'll go into the more complex ones from there. So here we go. Also, I just want to say thank you very much for everyone who has started commenting on these videos and who are enjoying them. I'm very happy and very glad. I do hope I can keep this series up. I'm not sure how long I can keep it up weekly, but I will see if I can continue to create more content and answer all your questions without spoiling anything. So here we go. Esther had asked that they noticed how people or artists would draw covers for the videos on this channel. I'm still in contact with a few of the artists who have provided work for the videos. Every time I always ask, I always say, look, feel free to say no, there's no reason for you to agree to it or not. I just haven't, to be honest, as everyone, I think most people have noticed with the videos, I have asked a huge list and request quite a while ago, and that's because I'm still working on the scripts and the fiction to then read and create videos from. So maybe, I guess in the next month or two, we'll see a little more variety in the visual art on the channel, but at this point in time, it's a bit, it's still under the works, really. Are you going to be writing a fantasy AU? Yes. I am working on one. I have kind of put a sneak peek on the first chapter for the fantasy AU. It's on the Wattpad account I've just recently created a couple of weeks ago. So if you would like to have a quick read of yourself, I will leave the link to the Wattpad account below in the description. If you're a little interested to know what's going on in the world, in the fantasy world, that is, feel free to go ahead. I am hoping to make a huge project out of it, but it depends on what time and inspiration and motivation is going to help me in that. We shall see. So this question I spotted in one of the community posts a long time ago, as you can see, and I just wanted to actually point this out now. Off topic, but what do you use to make these videos? So I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm fairly confident using the Adobe Creative Suite. Of course, I have my own subscription and so on and so forth. But I also use After Effects as well. So there are a few, these minor animations that I've put in the videos, depending whether it's called for or not. Good examples is, I think, Villain Denki Kaminari's video. I've used After Effects to give that lighting effect on his shirt. And the same goes with Darby's birthday video, both of them on screen, just so you can have a look-see. So some After Effects animations were put in that as well. Okay, so that's all the easy questions. Now for the much more convoluted, lore-induced difficult questions to ask. I do want to say as a disclaimer though, that some of them I may not be able to answer because, as per Sarah's videos, spoilers! So here we go. Again, Stitch Tart! Hey, so just a quick question about the Clip Studio paint. I've never tried it before. I have been told I should give it a go though. Okay, so 3 questions. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. Question number 1. I wanted to know if you have any headcanon hero names for the boys' travelers. I know they're meant to be the listener, so it's whatever the listener wants them to be personally. But I realized during Midoriya's our babysitting duty, he just yells out cutie in such an urgent tone during a mission. I'm so sorry. Like, it's true. Cutie! Cutie! Give me a minute. Cutie! No, it is true. I never thought it was hilarious in that kind of scenario when I wrote it, when I read it, and when I edited it. It's only after I read your question that I realized, oh yeah, that does sound a little strange. I was surprised he didn't use something else instead of their traveler nickname, so it made me wonder what would these travelers use as hero names? Villain names for Ceros, based on their quirks or whatever else they're based it off. Midoriya's traveler is Scope. Todoroki's traveler is Tsunami. Kirishima's traveler is Ban, as in Ban. So, little insight. If you go to the first video, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, there's a little bit of an explanation about the hero name in there. It's not been mentioned though. And the only reason I really liked Ban is, it's in B-A-N, you'll see on screen, is that's the Japanese way of saying bang bang, as in like a gun. So the whole shockwave quirk that they have kind of fits with that kind of hero name. Also, if you go to Gift of Giving, that's the reason why Mina calls the traveler Bon. There's a play on that. Anyway, sorry, I'm gonna move on. Bakugo's traveler is called Impulse. I don't know, I felt like it would be a really good name for that kind of quirk. Kaminari's traveler, they're called Siren, so that is of course French for siren. Please excuse me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. I would have listened to how to pronounce it, but because I'm kind of speaking off ad-libbing through this, I apologize if I pronounce that wrong. Sarah's traveler is called Volpone, and of course, well, Volpone. However, again, I'm ad-libbing, but the Italian pronunciation for fox. Actually, Sarah's traveler is the only one that has actually announced their name. I think it was the very first video, Chasing Foxes, where the traveler has actually announced themselves as Volpone. So hopefully that clears that up. And last but not least, Shinso's traveler. At the moment, the hero name that I have placed for them is Pathos, because of the way that they can read people's minds, and of course it's based from a Latin root, but I am kind of like wondering if that's the right hero name for them. Still, otherwise everyone else's seems solid by the sounds of it. Just not Shinso's traveler at the moment. Question number 2. I'm curious to know, do you think any of the travelers could pull off their own super move, like the students trained for? Would anyone's quirk not work for it? Or better yet, you ever thought of any combo moves the boys could pull off with their respective travelers? Oh, there's actually quite a bit, and I wish that it's just spoilers! But I guess what I can talk about right now, I guess a good example like for Midoriya's would be No Rest for the Wicked. Todoroki's would be Business Before Pleasure. Bakugo's is actually not during that time, not during that time of uploads. Bakugo's one would be Grounding Dragons would be a good example of them two working together. I think the others don't have anything to do with the guys at all. But if we're gonna go with the idea of a super move for the travelers, I think, well, to answer plainly, I think they could pull off a super move. It's only, I guess, right now, story-wise, it hasn't really been called upon or needed or called for. But I am very interested in, I guess, finding combo moves. After all, the best one I do like is Bakugo's Grounding Dragons when they were working together there. So the way I visualized it personally. So, I mean, I don't know what everyone else feels like, but I guess that's how I see it. But would anyone's quirk not work for it? I guess Kaminari's Traveler might not. Partly because of the way that their quirk kind of works. And I guess the same goes with, oh no, you know what? I was thinking Sero's Traveler might not either, but I actually, spoilers, I actually got so inspired by Wonder Woman, and I will not tell you why. Anyhow, I don't know if that answers that question like in its entirety without having to like spoil or give too much away, but I guess if you referred to the videos I mentioned earlier, I guess they're good examples of where they are headed. 3. Not a quirk question. Oh, but I was wondering what differences you've given the boys' appearances during this hero timeline, maybe even the villain ones too. I know you've portrayed some features in your art, like their different hair and even Midoriya's nose scar, but I'm wondering if there's anything else in comparison to what they look like during UA days. Midoriya's still the shortest of the bunch, lol. Okay, true. I think Midoriya is still the shortest out of everybody. I assume he's gotten a larger growth spurt and he's taller than most people, but I still think he's the shortest, which makes for a really good headcanon that when he does use his quirk, he actually kind of grows an inch or two taller. I don't know why. Maybe that's the case, but that's my headcanon. Well, definitely Midoriya's nose scar and different hairstyles. Sero being like as you can see right now, Sero's being the most drastically changed with the undercut. I don't know why. I really like Sero in an undercut. But it's definitely the hair. Definitely everyone's hair is different, which differentiates them so far. Sero's is drastically different. Midoriya's is just shorter hair, I guess. Shorter hair. Than the whole big giant curly frizz that he had as a teenager. Bakugo, he has an undercut. Todoroki, his hair is long. Kaminari's hair is long. Shinso has like this goatee thing going, similar to what Aizawa has, so I just found it funny that he would grow facial hair. And who am I missing? Kirishima. So Kirishima I think he would have just had longer hair, but he still does the whole hair routine like usual, so that's how I see it. But other differences could be that, well, I guess in short, the way that they're different from being what they were in teenagers is definitely their hair, definitely their heights. I do actually think though that Kirishima, like, there's always a contention, the contention between Bakugo and Kirishima's height. The Kirishima's taller than Bakugo now. But they've gained a lot of scars, I'd say. Like, a few of them have gained some scars. Some of them have basically just gained maturity, and all of that stuff. So even though they may look similar to what they were as teenagers, it's still a part of them. It's still a part of their identity. So I want to keep true to that. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. Tracy, yes. So the more comments with questions, the more Q&A videos, of course. I am trying to get through as many questions in this video with Sarah, but we'll see how well we turn out on that. If you were, or as I were, to give a simple personality trait to each of the travelers that comes out in how they act in the story, what would it be? Part of the reason I like watching these is it lets us hear fun Mayday, which makes me so happy. Yeah, I don't have to pull this voice all the time, project and elucidate. So that kind of thing. So I get it's time for me to relax. That's what it is. But I guess a simple personality trait to each of the travelers and how they act. Okay, let's start with Midoriya. Midoriya's traveler, I think, is actually a very responsible individual. However, they're kind of like a boss. They're not extremely domestic, I guess. Like, they don't know how to work the home very well. But when you leave them organizing something, they will be able to pull that off. Bakugo's traveler is playful and, you know, patient. I guess in a way they kind of, I think they're the clumsiest. Bakugo's traveler is the clumsiest out of them all. Kirishima's traveler, bit of a fan. Kind of like believes in community, believes in family, believes in camaraderie. I'm the commoner and you're the royalty, when really it's not really the case. Although, I will say this, I still believe in the headcanon that Kirishima comes from a rich family. Anyway, Todoroki. Todoroki's traveler, I guess they're more, I think they're insightful. Insightful. I think they're insightful and they care too much. And what I mean by they care too much, they try to do too much, you know, aware. I think they're very mindful and aware. Sero's traveler. Quirky. Quirky, eccentric. Kaminari's traveler. Very mature. Very wise, I say. They kind of have this, like, you know, classiness to them. Shinso's traveler is actually very work-minded. Very career focused, and of course these are just like fractions of their personality. They could be a number of things, but these are the ones that just came up to me first and foremost. But well, that was slightly long-winded than I thought, but I hope that answers your question. I hope I didn't dilly-dally too much. Amari, I had a question. Since all of the travelers' quirks have been explained, could you explain all of the downsides? I'm most curious about Sero's traveler because I'm a huge Zero simp. Do they faint if they prolong the use of their quirk? Okay, let's have a good, quick answer for that. The answer is yes. Sero's traveler requires energy in order to travel through light. So the problem with that is that they need to restore that energy again. Kind of like how the Flash in DC works with his high metabolism rate. But the thing is that the more Sero's traveler uses their quirk, the more susceptible to fainting and the more starving they get. This is why food is so important for them. Downsides. Midoriya's traveler. The thing is with Midoriya's traveler, I'm not sure about a downside except for the fact that the quirk itself is a downside, in a sense that all they could do was just zoom in through like a sniper scope. So I think the downside is that they need to find clever ways of utilizing their quirk in the career of choice, like the career path that they have. Maybe that's what it is. Todoroki's traveler is, of course, their body temperature drops every time they use their quirk. Again, this was highly inspired by one of the fan fictions I've read earlier in this channel, and I really fell in love with it, so I really wanted to incorporate that into the universe that they live in right now. Bakugo's traveler's quirk, downside for their quirk is, of course, they can't turn it off. So they will always constantly float, and they would always have to concentrate on keeping their feet on the ground and to keep themselves grounded. Kirishima's traveler's downside is for their quirk is basically the more that they shoot shockwaves out of their limbs, the hotter I wouldn't say the hotter they get, their joints and their muscles will seize. So if you can imagine how, I guess, a steam train works with the cogs and the wheels running, that's what their joints do. They just have to keep moving. If they stop, it'll seize up. Who else am I missing? Kaminari. Kaminari's traveler's downside is, I guess, is their practicality. After all, they can only control one person at a time. They can't control a whole group of people. And the thing is that once they do control that person, they have a choice to keep that control for a month, no matter where they are. It's almost like instilling this, the lullaby that they had in their head, but that's all they can do. If they have to go and change it to someone else, they lose that control over that other person. And lastly, Shinso's traveler's downside for their quirk is because they read minds and they can deep dive into someone's head. The problem with them is that it becomes like it's a two-way street. They can't just access it and it's only them accessing their head. The other person, the recipient, if I guess Shinso's traveler takes too long in their head, can then access their head. So it's a two-way channel. I guess that's all the downsides for all of them at this case. But if you do want to hear what the villain travelers' downsides and their quirks are, I guess I will have to highlight that in another video. Sorry. But otherwise, those are the heroes' quirks and their downsides. I hope that answers your question. Morgan Davis. Hi, Mayday. I love the Speed Pain and Todoroki's babysitting duty video that came out a few days ago. Thank you. It's helping me get through studying for exams this week. Oh, that's good. So I hope you did very well. But on to the question. So this doctor that has brought back the travelers from death for the villains in the Hero AU, yeah. Are they connected to Sero's travelers Hero AU in some way? I think you said that this doctor, referencing the one from the Halloween logs, is in some way a ripple in the timelines to say, but I'm curious to know if they are different doctors or not. I was being a bit vague in the last Q&A about the doctor, but I guess to say, to answer the the traveler villains, yes, Sero's traveler is connected to them in some way. So it has been explained in spoilers, as in the video, that they were treated by a doctor. They were also considered a failed experiment. So there hasn't been any more explanation further from that, explaining how they kind of escaped or how they were disowned in a way. But we'll get to that eventually. But to answer your question, yes, the Sero's traveler is connected in that way because of this doctor. Just a random Alec asked another question. So in short, what they have said was that they assumed that both Darby's traveler and Sero's traveler were the same person. But of course, spoilers debunked that. So I guess the question that is said here is, let's see, do they know each other? Or did they ever work together or against each other? So there has been some assumption I have heard that people, a lot of viewers have wondered whether Sero's traveler was connected to Darby's traveler in some way and form. Like, did they know each other in the past? Did they ever knew who they were? So just a little insight, just to clear the air a bit. So the way the story is going, Sero's traveler has not really met this person. I met Darby's traveler before. They've really not had any connections in the past themselves. However, the only reason Sarah's traveler knows of them is because the whole idea is that the media has gone really wild about the fires from years ago, but also a lot of things have started cropping up in some of the stories. So if you listen to Darby's timeline, there's a lot of like new, I guess, events that have happened that may have caused them to be in the limelight. The whole thing about the whole villains trying to keep under wraps, but a lot of their activity is still being brought to light, is also seen in I think definitely it's directed towards Kaminari's Traveler, and the one video with Todoroki's timeline, which is Business Before Pleasure. So there's a lot of like these, I guess, events that are stirring up the whole idea of the Paranormal Liberation Front being brought to light, and that is thanks to Kaminari's Traveler. So if you followed his timeline, you kind of get a little bit of insight on that kind of particular idea, which is probably why in Sero's timeline, his traveler is gaining a lot of information. Well, when I say gaining, they're practically stealing information just so then they can get down to what they're looking for. And a little bit of further insight into that whole thing is also because the way I see it, Sarah's traveler is just wanting to know, why were they tossed aside? Why were they deemed, I guess, ineffective, obsolete, or useless in a way? Because that was the whole idea, is that they were disowned, and they want to get down to the bottom of it, and they want to know why. And this one traveler, which is Darby's traveler, has been like the focus point of the Doctor's attention, and like how they have, I guess, improved on their quirk and their effectiveness and all that. So it's kind of that drama I want to try and put in. But other than that, I guess that's the only way I can answer it. They don't know each other per se. It's just Sarah's traveler is trying to get as much information out of it so then they can have the tools to confront them when they can. So all of that good stuff. But also, Sarah's traveler is a little bit hasty. So we'll see how that turns out. Miranda Murray asked, so there's questions that's been bugging them for a while. Todoroki Traveler's quirk is water manipulation, and the human body is made up of 70% of water. So is that why Traveler's body with the dropping Traveler's body has dropping temperatures? Does the water in their body get affected too? Also, can Traveler manipulate the water in someone else's body or drop the temperatures in their body? Okay, so if we have to refer back to the whole talk about super moves with people, I would probably assume a super move of Todoroki's Traveler would be, if we're going to bring Avatar references in here, blood manipulation, as in they can control the water in their body, not the blood. So I don't think they would control blood itself, but the fact that the human body is made up of 70% of water, that they would be able to control how the water moves in their body. I would want to try and figure that out scientifically, how that could work, like biologically how that could work, but that would be a thing. The dropping temperatures though, again, like I said, I was highly inspired by a fan fiction I read of this quirk, and it was I just really like to incorporate it into the story. But I'd say if I have to try and scientifically put a spin on it, the fact that when they use I think they're not like Todoroki. So Todoroki can generate heat and is basically fireproof on one side, and generate the cold and is basically, immune to the cold to a degree. Like, he will still suffer frostbite, as seen by the Rising movie. So in this case with the Traveler, I would imagine that the reason why their body temperatures drop is because I would agree with you in the sense that the body temperatures are dropping because when they do use their quirk to control water around them, I think it's just a matter of figuring out how that is conducive between their body and the water that they control. So perhaps maybe that's why they probably do drop temperatures. I really want to find out a really good biological scientific way to explain that. I just think it makes for a really good downside for the water manipulation. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's how I would see Todoroki's Traveler going about. And also the fact with the super move, I can see them being able to puppeteer somebody if they could. But right now I want to make sure that we got our facts straight when it comes to doing that when it explains for that kind of thing. I mean, after all, it is in a world where you have different kinds of quirks, including mutated quirks, which actually go outside the bounds of biology as well. So I want to make sure that, again, facts are straight to some degree to ground them. But other than that, I guess, wow, I got through all the questions. Oh dear. Well, I do hope you enjoyed watching Sero being put together. If you'd like to ask more questions, feel free to comment down below. I will see if I can make another Q&A video for the next week or whenever I'll have one available. But until next time, keep asking. See you later.